Hey guys, AilouPup here, and today I'm bringing to you a review of Running with the Demon by Terry Brooks. This book series has a lot of sentimental value to me because it was Terry Brooks who got me back into reading about 10 years ago. The first book I read by him was The Elfstones of Shannara, which is the second book in the original Shannara series, and it was given to me by a friend of my dad's. And while Running with the Demon is not technically of the same world as the Shannara series, it is still technically Shannara because it is a prequel set in this world hundreds of years before the world in the Shannara series is created. Running with the Demon follows the story of Ness Freemark, who helps a Sylvan named Pick keep the balance of the Word and the Void in Sinisippi Park in Hopewell, Illinois. In this series, the Word is basically God and the Void is basically the devil. Only a few acknowledge the Word and Void, those being Ness Freemark, John Ross, who is a Knight of the Word, Pick the Sylvan, and a demon who comes to Hopewell to disrupt the balance. John Ross is sent to Hopewell by the Lady of the Word to track this demon who comes to Hopewell. Throughout the majority of the story, the reader gets constant hints about what the demon is actually up to in Hopewell, though we don't really see what it is until the very end of the story. The presence of both the demon and the Knight of the Word in Hopewell, I don't completely understand what the feeders are. They don't actually appear after the series after this one, to the best of my knowledge. But from what I understand, they are creatures created by the Word to help keep the balance between the Word and the Void. And they feed on human fear and pain. But the book actually does describe fairly well what they are. The feeders are a force of nature, and they respond to instinct rather than to reason. They do not think because thinking is not required of them. They do not exist to think, but to react. The Word made them for reasons that John Ross does not understand. They are a part of the balance of life, but their particular place in the balance remains a mystery to him. They are attracted by the darker emotions that plague human beings. They appear when those emotions can no longer be contained. They feed on those emotions, and in so doing drive mad the humans who are their victims. Given enough time and space and encouragement, they would destroy everything. And there is another passage in the book that describes them fairly well as well. The feeders are only here because of us. They react to us as humans. They feed on our emotions, on our behavior. They grow stronger or weaker depending on how we behave. The Word made them to be a reflection of us. If we behave well, we diminish them. If we behave badly, we strengthen them. Give them too much to feed on, and they devour us. But they're not subject to the same laws as we are. They don't have life in the same way we do. They don't have our substance. They creep around in the shadows and come out with any release of the dark that's inside us. I can burn them all to ash, but they will just come back, born out of new emotions, new behavior. There's one thing I can say about this book, it's that there's no shortage of description. It takes place over the course of about 5 days. It is mostly centered around the Sinisippi Park, and in the park there's a particular tree that is the prison of a creature known as a Maintrog. Not too sure if I'm actually pronouncing that right, but I'm gonna just go with it. But again, I would like to read to you what it describes the Maitmorg as. Maitmorgs were, to use the Sylvan's own words, half predator, half raver, and all bad. Thousands of years ago, they had preyed upon forest creatures and humans alike, devouring members of both species in sudden cataclysmic frenzied bursts triggered by a need that only they understood. They would tear the souls out of their victims while they still lived, leaving them hollow and consumed by madness. They fed in the manner of feeders but did not rely on dark emotions for their response. They were thinking creatures. They were hunters. What I have noticed about Terry Brooks is that his books are very descriptive, which is why I chose to read to you how the book describes them rather than fumble around trying to figure out how to describe them to you when I don't really understand what they are myself. But unfortunately, this makes the book go a bit too slowly and kind of hard to get through. There was never really a point while I was reading that I would put down the book and then feel that I had to immediately pick it back up again. Most of the description feels very unneeded, though it can help to build up a character. There were times when I would think to myself that I wish could have shown us a particular scene rather than described it. For example, close to the end of the book, there is a scene where Robert Freemark gets a phone call from a friend of his, but instead of showing us the conversation, it is described in one big long paragraph. With the book, I found myself having a lot of why questions that I hadn't had before because I wasn't reading with the point of view of a reviewer. Why does Ness not talk to her grandmother about John Ross when her grandmother is the only other person besides Pick who knows about the magic and believes in the magic? Why does Robert Freemark not go to the police when he learns that something in particular is going to happen on July 4th that could hurt a lot of people and would probably kill some people? And of course, one that's not actually important to the plot, but just something that confuses me a little bit. Why is it every other time that someone's name is mentioned, he gives the first and last name of the person? Is it really all that necessary for the reader to be reminded what the character's full name is? During the beginning of the book, Ness questions why she has magic at her disposal, but she never really gets an answer, and as far as I know, there's never really an actual answer throughout the rest of the series as well. I haven't finished reading the last book in this series, so I don't know for sure if she gets an answer, but as far as I know, it's not really talked about. And as far as I remember, she doesn't question it past this book either. The recommended reading order of these books is to start with The Sword of Shannara, which is the first book in the original Shannara series, and to read forward from there before going back and reading the prequels. Terry Brooks has said at one point, I think a while ago, that he wrote the books in a way that they could be read in basically any order, and I don't really agree with that. At least I wouldn't read the books in any order. The series themselves can be read in whatever order, but the books themselves I would reading in the correct order, except for Word and Void and the original Shannara series, and maybe Heritage of Shannara. I wouldn't recommend reading the books out of order. While reading this, I did realize that a lot of my enjoyment of the book is purely nostalgic, but even if it wasn't, I think I'd still give it a 3 out of 5. I did enjoy the plot and the characters themselves, though the book could have done with a fair amount less description, which I find kind of funny because usually description is good, but too much description can just make the book go too slow, in my opinion. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to come back for more if you enjoyed this one.